and,
So
and
that
and
you
I
have
guess as well with pregnancy, you've already got your heightened senses as well. Like you're more into what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting. Everything has changed because your hormones have changed. So I think it's as much as you might have had, as you didn't have too much issues with this before you're pregnant, and then now that you're pregnant, all these things that you didn't really have too much of an issue are now big issues. I mean, I still have issues with this now, was the noises. Like as much as they weren't too overstimulating at the time, because the I guess the special care nursery and NICU that I was in, my son was in a one-on-one NICU, so it was just him in one room. So it was only his monitor beeping at any time. But when it went to him being on a three to one staff, that's when it started getting a lot more sensory issues for me because I could hear the other cots beeping. There was a lot more overstimulating in that environment, whereas I guess in the NICU environment, it's you're only focusing on, okay, I can see his monitor, I can see what it's doing, it's making these noises, this is what it's going to do. So I sort of knew what I was looking at when he was on his own, but when he went into a room with more than one baby, that's when I sort of got a lot more distracted because I'm hearing the beeping and they're not stopping it, and then it sort of gets really overstimulating very quickly. I guess hospitals in general are overstimulating, but just in that environment when you have a lot more monitors, you have a lot more things that can beep. His oxygen dropped for 2 seconds, his alarms are going off.
What were some strategies you used for yourself to cope through that period?
I use noise cancelling headphones a lot. Just sort of obviously my partner was there. I tended to just sort of take 5 minutes for myself. Whether or not that was go to the bathroom, walk away, walk down the hall. Because at the time it was still COVID rules in the hospital, so the hospital was still quite, I guess, quiet at that time. Because only parents were allowed in the hospital and nobody else. So I think beneficially for me, it was quieter than average. It would have been probably a lot busier now. But in terms of um, like obviously you can't turn the machines down. That's something that you know. Um, I mean, it would be nice if you could, but obviously they need to be able to hear it. So I think just getting yourself used to what sounds are what, so you're not stressing about what things are doing what. I didn't have the time to sort of ask those questions, which I think might have been helpful a little bit more, like knowing, because I didn't obviously in that sort of environment, you're not ready to sort of just being dumped. Here's your baby in a box. This is all beeping, everything's making noises. So we just associated every noise with something wrong, which you do anyway. But so sort of like I was hypersensitive to the noise. So that sort of, I think in the hospital, I never had a time where I didn't have high anxiety levels. And there was no real getting away from it. So sort of when we got home, I was just so burnt out. So that was the biggest thing. Like, there's no real, I guess, guidebook to a NICU. Definitely for autistic people, like they did have like a listing of just certain things, but they didn't really sort of explain. And this is something that I think would have been very helpful. And I've now know there are services out there that I didn't end up using when I came home that would have been so helpful to begin with. Like places that you can just ring and they give you details about what you can expect, and even if you had pictures, like a guide, definitely for NICU, a guide of what things are. Okay, you might have this piece of machinery, this is what it does, just so you're a little bit more informed without having the doctors tell you in doctors' terms that I had no idea what they're talking about. Like my son was on CPAP. I'm like, I knew it was for breathing, but I didn't know exactly what it did. It made noises. He had a tube out of his mouth, like, trying to work out. Like, I didn't want to ask the doctor what these things were for. I'm just assuming that they're doing the right thing by our child. But in terms of you have all these things that you have no idea about, they don't talk to you about it in like they go, okay, your child may end up in this situation, but they actually don't go into detail about if your child ends up in this situation. These are the things you could expect to see and maybe do pictures. Oh yeah, I
this.
wish I recorded my doctor's appointments because I walked out of half of them and I'm like, what did the doctor say again? And then you'd be like, oh, they said this, and then you're trying to remember what they've said. And because it's so much information at once, they sort of spill it to you. Um, I didn't retain half of the conversation. And like sometimes looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have had to, take some notes or whether or not I had somebody else with me that could sort of explain it to me after. Um, I, or even if they were able to send you an email on the things they talked about. Just because not only like, yes, I might look like I'm listening, but then yes, I'm listening in that moment, but whether or not I've retained that information, um, was a gap for me because I get out of an appointment and I would think, oh, you know, okay, he talked about this and they talked about this, and then, um, oh, yeah, we need to do this. And, by the time you've got home, you've got so many things you're thinking about, that a lot of it gets jumbled. Yeah.
And
And
feeling
I mean,
all
there's no guidebook. Like, I mean, yes, there's, apps out there that show you what to expect at this many weeks, what to expect at this many weeks. And the Victorian government has done some good stuff in relation to the resources that are on the maternity website. There are some, like even now, like my son's about to have his 2-year-old appointment today. So I already know going into that these that, they've got in the book, these are the 10 things we're going to look at today. So you sort of already know going in, okay, these are the things I'm going to get asked when I go into this appointment. And they might add on top of that, but at least you just have some idea going into it what to expect. Because I think that's the biggest thing about appointments for me is, one, you have to sit in a waiting room. Two, it's very overstimulating anyway. There's lights, there's noises, the phone's ringing. There's all these little things that can add up to increase that anxiety level, but you already have that anxiety going in there, not knowing what to expect behind the door. What's going to happen during this appointment? Okay, I'm going in, I'm assuming I'm going to get my belly measured today. I'm assuming I'm going to get weighed. What questions are they going to ask? Like even just having a guide as to what to expect from the appointment. So you're not going in completely in the blank. Like, okay, what times your appointment, like in terms of gestationally, what when your appointments are, but you sort of don't really get an idea of what am I going into this appointment for? So my maternal health team was very, very supportive. So I was very lucky, that the maternal health center for my region, was, pro autism. They were very much, okay, what do you need from us? So I had extra appointments for Lucas just for my sanity, as well as, keeping an eye on him developmentally. It was just more that I needed those extra appointments to sort of get my head into what should I be doing? Am I doing the right things? I need, to have that little bit more assistance. I guess not necessarily, the appointment isn't about the child. It's more about, okay, well, I'm struggling. I'm a new mum. I have no idea what I'm doing. I also have these sensory issues. I have, you know, sensory issues. I have noise issues. My son had a few issues himself. So, just going through those, but also, my counsel was very much, okay, well, we can offer you this program. We have a first parent program that we're going to put you in. You're going to be supported that whole first 8 weeks. Then also, okay, once you've got through this program, we're going to give you a playgroup program that you can go into. So you're supported in that aspect of learning how to, deal with the child in terms of developmentally and play. So I think just having those few, and obviously the psych OT on board, and speech on board in the very beginning, to sort of, they were there to help me too. So like my OT was helping me with understanding my baby's facial cues. So like understanding emotions. What is my baby trying to tell me? So I think just having a really strong support team from the beginning helped me in the long run. And obviously a lot of people don't have access to that support team.